All 5 years, my husband's family took over my house. His mother needed somewhere to stay after selling her condo. His brother needed a place while he got back on his feet. His sister started dropping by with boxes. One evening, they sat around my dining table like they owned it. My mother-in-law complained about dinner. "You should be grateful we keep this house lively," she said. I put my fork down. "This is my home, not your family's hotel." Silence filled the room. My husband stood, his chair scraping the floor. "Don't you dare talk to my mother like that." I looked at him. "I'm telling her the truth." His hand struck my face. It hurt more than the pain. Nobody moved. His brother stared at his plate. His sister whispered, "Why would you provoke him?" I touched my face. I didn't cry. I stood, walked upstairs, and packed one suitcase. Before leaving, I looked at the house I paid for alone. Outside, I made one call. I drove away without looking back. I wasn't running from my marriage. I was leaving the version of myself that had accepted this. I stayed calm. The person I called was not my lawyer. It was the property manager who had handled my mortgage refinance earlier. "Mr. Hayes, I need a copy of every document connected to my house." He sounded surprised. "Tonight?" "Yes. And I need something else." "Please confirm whose name is on the deed." He paused. "Yours." I closed my eyes. That word steadied me. For 5 years, my husband acted like the house belonged to everyone except me. His mother had taken the master bedroom. His brother had converted my office into a gaming room. His sister kept her children's toys in my living room. Every complaint ended the same way. "Your family now." But family had apparently meant me paying mortgage, utilities, groceries, repairs, even the roof. I never demanded rent because he promised they were temporary. I believed him. I received the documents. There it was. Then I noticed something else. My husband had signed a document claiming he contributed to household expenses. I stared at the signature. He never showed me that paper. I called Mr. Hayes again. "Was this filed anywhere?" "Yes." My stomach tightened. "Where?" He answered quietly. "With the county." Then he added something else. "There's another filing dated last month." I read it again. Silence had never protected me. I drove to my attorney's office. Her name was Rebecca Collins. She read the documents. When she reached the second filing, she frowned. "Your husband filed a claim against the property." "A claim?" "He's asserting an ownership interest." I laughed once. Not because it was funny. My husband had been protecting a plan. Rebecca explained that the filing did not make him an owner, but it could complicate any sale or refinancing. Why would he do this? She looked at the payment records I had brought. Because he may be trying to establish that he financially contributed to the house. But he didn't. I know. The records will matter. Then she asked me something I hadn't considered. Who else knew about the filing? I thought about my mother-in-law. Her questions about the mortgage. Her interest in whether I planned to keep the house. Her strange comments about protecting family assets. I called him. He answered. "Where are you?" "Somewhere safe." "You embarrassed me last night." I almost laughed. "You filed against my house." Silence. Then he said, "Mom told me you'd eventually push us out." I looked at Rebecca. She was already taking notes. And then my husband said, "You don't understand what she knows." I had spent years making excuses for people who never made excuses for me. That ended with that phone call. I stopped explaining. I asked him what his mother knew. He refused. He demanded that I come home. "I'm not discussing this by phone. I'm not coming back. You're my wife. That doesn't give you ownership of me or my house." He hung up. Rebecca told me not to contact him again without documentation. She sent a formal notice protecting rights. She uncovered something worse. My husband had opened a joint account with his mother 6 months earlier. Money had been moving through it. Small transfers. 300, 500, 800. Enough to seem ordinary. Rebecca compared them with my household records. They matched expenses my husband had claimed he paid. He had been moving money from his mother, then presenting it as his contribution. I stared. "This is fraud." "It may be evidence of misrepresentation," Rebecca said. She pointed to the final payment. I looked. Rebecca searched the registration. Then Rebecca found one more payment. $47,500. Sent 2 days before dinner. The memo line had 3 words. Final family plan. I knew where that money had gone. I wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. The records made that impossible. Their plan was no longer a suspicion. Enough. I spent the afternoon collecting proof. Bank statements showed that my husband had transferred money to his brother's company. Property records showed his ownership claim. Emails showed my mother-in-law discussing the house with both. One message stopped me. Once she leaves, we can finally move everyone upstairs. They planned to push me out. I forwarded everything. She told me to make no announcements and not return home alone. That evening, my husband messaged me. Come home. We need to fix this before Mom makes things worse. I read it. He feared his mother. That was new. I called. What does she have on you? Silence. Tell me. He said, she knows I used your house as collateral. I froze. For what? He refused to answer. Rebecca checked county records. There was a loan application attached to the filing. My house had been listed as security for a private loan. The borrower wasn't my husband. It was his brother. I realized they weren't trying to live there. They wanted control. They had borrowed against what they didn't own. I stared at the message. It wasn't a threat. It was a timetable. I knew I could not go back. I knew it. The next morning, Rebecca filed a notice challenging the claim. She contacted the lender. The loan officer confirmed something shocking. The lender had been told my husband owned half the house. He had provided the forged contribution records as evidence. Then the officer offered the loan interview recording. His voice came through the speaker. My wife knows we're doing this. He had lied. That statement matters. I asked whether he planned to tell me. The answer was obvious. No. That afternoon, I returned with a deputy. My mother-in-law opened the door. She looked at me with complete confidence. You'll come back, she said. I entered. My belongings remained upstairs. But my office had been emptied. Boxes containing my documents were stacked in the hallway. I opened one. Inside were copies of my deed, tax records, bank statements, and insurance papers. They had been collecting my information. Then I found a folder with my name. Inside was a draft agreement transferring part of my house to my husband. It was unsigned. But the date was tomorrow. I remembered the dinner table. They watched him hurt me and blamed my reaction. I refused to let fear decide what happened next. I photographed every page. My mother-in-law followed me. You're making a terrible mistake. No. I'm finally seeing clearly. She lowered her voice. Your husband loves you. Then why was he trying to take my house? She looked away. I asked about the $4,000 to $7,000 payment. She became silent. That told me enough. Rebecca later traced it. The money went to the lender. I asked one question. If I had stayed at dinner, would you have told me? He looked away. No. That answer ended it. I can fix this. You had 5 years to protect me. I was scared. So was I. He asked if I hated him. I shook my head. I don't hate you. I don't trust you. He said his mother had pressured him for months. I asked why he stayed. He answered quietly. Because everyone depended on you. That was the truth. They never loved my generosity. They had depended on it. I felt relieved that Lily would never have to live inside that house again. Some endings are quiet, but they still change everything. I was done carrying their burden. I finally understood that. I was done with excuses. Enough. 3 weeks later, the ownership claim was withdrawn. The lender canceled the loan after receiving the evidence. My brother-in-law's company entered a repayment arrangement. I stayed in my house. Not because I wanted revenge. Because it was mine. I made coffee and sat at the table. Sunlight filled the windows. The room felt quiet. For the first time in years, I could hear my own thoughts. My husband asked for another chance. I didn't answer immediately. Maybe forgiveness would be possible. Reconciliation required trust, and trust had to be rebuilt. Later, I received a letter from my mother-in-law. She apologized for treating my home like hers. She admitted she had mistaken my patience for permission. I put it away. I didn't need her approval. I had spent 5 years believing keeping peace meant keeping everyone happy. It didn't. Peace sometimes means refusing chaos. The night I walked out, they thought I had lost. They thought I had left my home behind. They were wrong. I had walked away from the people who believed they owned me. And when I stepped through that door, I didn't take revenge. I took back my life. That was the one thing none of them could control. The house was mine. My future was mine. I could breathe. I understood something important. Leaving was not losing. It was choosing myself, without permission. I locked the door behind me and kept walking. This time, I knew exactly what I was leaving, and exactly what I was keeping.